Our first question is from Jake. Almost a year ago, I completed the rite of passage with a 28 kilo kettlebell as written with the pull-ups. Okay, I've done the exact same thing myself. Jake, I did it to get ready for my first RKC certification, and I really thought the 28 was a great bell to prepare for the cert. I will explain in a minute what the rite of passage is. Then I did a few programs from your book, The Armor Building Formula. I was really happy to complete the double kettlebell program with two 24 kilo kettlebells. Now I'm back on the rite of passage using a 32 kilo kettlebell and pull-ups. I'm doing the pull-ups with 5 pounds this time. As I've heard you say, one knock on the rite of passage is the lack of squats. That is true. That's why I have people do the rite of passage to prepare for a cert or as a program. You know, it's not a lifestyle. Though, you know, you get a lot of good out of it, but we'll come back to that in a minute. So on the variety days, I've been doing front squats with 145 pounds and ladders of 2, 3, 5, 10. I like that. I'm making sure to match the weekly reps I'm doing with squats to the weekly reps of clean presses and pull-ups. That is a very good thing, folks. I believe your pushes, your pulls, and your squats should all be about the same number every week. And now, obviously, if you're doing a program, that'll change. But try to come back to that idea. 145 pounds is a decent challenge. And, of course, you know, you're doing 10 reps. So, yeah, considering the number of reps the program builds up to. Since you've talked about how much you love the rite of passage, do you think this is wise? I know I'm a sample of one, but am I wasting my time? No, you're not. Should I be concerned about the lack of squats? So the question, well, let's first off, okay, the rite of passage is probably my favorite program of Pavel for kettlebells. Basically, it's sets of ladders, and let's do it the way Jake is describing it. And this, I think, is the best way. You do a single clean and press with the left hand kettlebell, single kettlebell clean and press right hand, and then you do one pull-up. Next round, 2 clean and press left, 2 clean and press right, 2 pull-ups. 1, 2, 3, you just keep going up like that. The program is supposed to build up, and it is, I tell you, when you finish the last workout, so you do 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, and you do that for 5. You do that 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 5. That gets you 75 clean and press with each hand and 75 pull-ups. When I finished that, that's when I was pretty sure I wasn't going to have any problems with the certification. Little did I know that we would be on a hot, dry field and I would have problems, but that's another story. The Armor Building Formula, of course, is my program. It's double kettlebell, 2 double kettlebell cleans, 1 double kettlebell press, and then 3 double kettlebell front squats. And you just build up to 30 rounds of that in the book Armor Building Formula, available at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. Squats and kettlebells have always been a bit of an issue. Even if you read, if you go back to, you know, the modern kettlebell movement starts when John Duquesne and Pavel have coffee one time. They start talking about, you know, selling kettlebells, teaching kettlebells, certifying it. And it really did start the modern kettlebell movement. I have strength and health magazines from the early 1960s that still show kettlebell exercises as just being kind of normal. There's a really interesting one that has a whole variety of one finger and this arm wrestling movement where you put your hand, I don't know if I'd try this, but you put your hand, you know, like you're arm wrestling the kettlebell with your hand starts on the table and you bring it like that. I don't know, it just never seemed healthy to me for the shoulders. I have kettlebell information from obviously the 1960s and 70s from the Soviet materials. You'll find them in the Track and Field Omni book in the very first edition in 1971. And of course, I watched the Soviet hammer throwers down at the College of San Mateo. And I'm thinking this is 75 or 76 when the one guy finished his training by throwing kettlebells And of course, here in the United States, and I've explained this before, we misunderstood what they meant by POOD and translated into PUD. And so you could find in Gill Athletics catalogs for years, PUDs, also known as AKA throwing weights, that look kind of like paint cans, and they feel like paint cans to me, that weigh 20 pounds, say. I mean, throwing kettlebells is a really good training device. I have an article somewhere with the German javelin throwers doing this really interesting contest with a kettlebell, including one of them. These are javelin throwers. They would put it on their foot and see how far they could throw it. Now, I don't know the value of that either, but it sure seemed fun. So when Pavel and John sat down, they gave us the modern kettlebell movement, okay? One of the things you'll find early in Pavel's writings, and I'm pretty sure it could be Enter the Kettlebell, but it's got to be one I've read a number of times, where he talks about how having big, thick legs are not important. One of the things that it's almost an axiom I've used in my adult life is increase your hinge, your deadlift, clean, snatch, those, and maintain your squat, especially if you're an athlete, because once a man gets to about a 400-pound squat, most of the benefits of that exercise are there. Now, that's an athlete, not a power lifter, not an Olympic lifter. And if someone needs to do it, obviously do more. The lack of squats in a lot of kettlebell programs, Rite of Passage is the example we use, is pretty obvious to anybody who spends time in a normal gym, Olympic lifting, powerlifting. You see a lot more leg work than you would see from the Rite of Passage. Don't forget, I forgot to add, at the end of every Rite of Passage workout, you either do swings for a while or snatches for a while. So you get a lot of hinge work in there. The lack of squats, it's going to be one of those things, Jake. This is a very specific answer to you. You're putting them in. If you do the Rite of Passage the way it's supposed to be, it's 3 days a week with variety days. And I think you've done a really smart thing by sticking squats in those variety days. And those are front squats, which are probably, in my perfect universe, when I invent one, I'm going to have the front squat and the overhead squat will be, when we say squats, either one of those two, what we'll be thinking about. In the multiverse, I'm pretty sure it's already happening. That was an attempt at humor. I think you're doing the right thing, folks. Jake, folks, I want you to listen to what Jake did. He took a program, he saw a gap, and he added it on the other days. And I think that's the key, no matter what programming. Now, I love lifting 3 days a week. I've discovered it and rediscovered it, that in my personal case, 3 days a week of lifting is the best for me. I think if you talk with most athletes, because you're generally juggling, a lot of time throwing, tackling, doing other things, blocking, whatever you're shooting, whatever your sport is, we have to spend a lot of time out there doing a whole bunch of other things. So if you have a program like the Rite of Passage and you're using it for a sport, you might have to supplement it with more squats. Or like I usually tell people, do your goblet squats in what you perceive as your warm-up, or even tag them on at the end. One of the things that people who do the armor building formula, the actual armor building formula, not just the armor building complex, is one of the things they find is that doing that volume of squats, if you did 30 rounds, that's 90 squats. Doing 90 squats once or twice a week is a lot of volume, and it does a lot of good for you. I mean that's kind of a duh statement, but I think it's important to keep that in mind. Is that you want a program that has some variety built in. Of course, in the ABF we have a pressing day and we have an ABC day. When I'm getting ready for an Olympic lifting meet, I don't have any variety. 3 days a week, I Olympic lift, I snatch, I clean and jerk, and I front squat to prepare myself for an Olympic lifting meet. So variety is great, except when you're hyper-focused. If you're going to get if you're doing this program to get ready for a certification, stick with the rite of passage and add extra practice days a week instead of the squats. But your answer is really good, and I like it. So folks, I think this is nice. Just for those of you who listen to the podcast a lot and you only have a single kettlebell or whatever the situation is, Jake's idea here is a good way to go. So 3 days a week, rite of passage, and then you add that one extra day of squats as your variety day. Good. It's a good thing to remember, and thank you, Jake.